So Emily's actually working on a project that helps out with wallet security, which is called FoolProof app. Emily, welcome, and tell us a little bit about the project.
Maybe he should kick it off just because it's going to get bad. Like, I'm definitely in the woods.
Right on. All right. Trying to build a custom RPC for each individual that lets you manage your transactions explicitly, right? So if somebody sends you a link and says, hey, you're qualified for this airdrop, click through, we'll verify you have this specific token, and you get your airdrop. Well, first off, it's not just a pop-up. It doesn't just say, here's what might happen. No, it actually takes that transaction, breaks it down into pieces, and says, are you sure you want to transfer your Bored Ape? Are you sure you want to set approval for your Cool Cats? And that transaction cannot go through until you've decided yes or no you want to do that. So that's the primary use case. But then to take it further, right, as we start building this community, as we start getting that data, we're going to be able to feed that back out into the community and say, hey, there's a brand new wallet out there that's just receiving all kinds of high value assets, and they're doing it through this other contract. So be wary of these two pairs. And we want to grow that so that it says, here's the website to not go to, and potentially even get that into a plugin, right? That says, hey, this one's been reported 17 times. You use this at your own risk. But the great thing is, you're not at your own risk. You're a foolproof.
You say you're making that tool?
Yes.
Do you work with wallet developers and like API, SDK sort of things?
Not currently. Like, we're just doing it as a raw RPC. So equivalent to Infura.
Can you elaborate on that for some people that might not know, like, what's an RPC and what is the benefit of having a private RPC?
So a private RPC, the RPC is what carries your transaction to the blockchain, okay? And so when you download MetaMask, you might know that MetaMask is owned by Consensus. You might also know that Consensus owns Infura. So by default, all of your transactions just go flowing right into Infura's node farm. And I don't know if that explicitly gives them those mining rewards, but it certainly doesn't hurt, right? So you're actually on that Consensus infrastructure end to end. And so in most scenarios, right, your wallet builds a little encrypted package, sends it to a node, and then that node says, A, will this pass or fail on the blockchain? And then B, if it passes, what is the effect of that, right? So Vitalik designed the blockchain to be a ledger, right? So we explicitly say, nobody owns token 17. Jess has just done a mint, and she will receive token 17 as a result of that, and nobody else has token 17. Yeah, the RPC is the middleman that gets your mint, your transfer, whatever it is, onto the blockchain.
And I just wanted to add in something else, because I know, like, previously there had been some reports that certain locations were blocked from using Infura. So that would be another reason to, like, have a private RPC. These are, like, centralized entities, and Infura being the biggest one that connects, MetaMask to Ethereum.
Precisely.
You can think of the RPC also as, one, the URL that your device is using to go find the information it needs to, right? And then it's the route that it's running through. So if it runs through one, like you saying, Consensus infrastructure, and they have certain sets of concerns, regulatory concerns that they feel like adhering to, then you're going to route through that set of regulatory controls. If your IP address says that you're shows you as coming from someplace around the world and they've made a restriction, then that RPC will block your activity. If I set up a private RPC, basically I just have better access and better certainty that when I want to do a thing like connect to a Web3 dApp or execute a transaction in Web3, I can have more confidence that it's going to go through, hopefully in a faster and more timely manner as well.
Exactly that, right? I especially like to focus on the aspect of speed, because if you look at MetaMask, when you click for a transaction, it performs 30 API requests, just ridiculous amounts of data. And that's why it takes 8 seconds to show up to actually approve it. And so, yeah, somewhere on our roadmap, right, is to say, okay, we see you, MetaMask. We're going to trim this down so we don't have this massive delay in doing our mint or whatever it is.
And like,
You
if
should,
you're a proper degen, seconds matter a lot, right? Like,
oh my God, yes.
so if you're waiting for something to mint out and gas is spiking and MetaMask is too busy mining all of your data to like let you get ahead of someone else, then like maybe you missed out because they wanted to steal all of your information.
No kidding. Squeal, shoot me a DM or I'll shoot you a DM. I would love to talk to you. I've been building wallets forever, so we would totally be interested in rolling something like that in.
Yeah, we definitely are looking to partner with people to get our technology into their wallets, because there's an additional functionality that Squeewa didn't quite mention, and I'm about to get into like the absolute worst signal. I know it's coming, so I don't know, Squeewa, if you want to talk about like the snapback function that we've got working.
Yeah, two things Emily mentioned. We have a snapback, which can help you recover your tokens if you've lost your keys. And then I've been theorizing about a step backwards in wallet technology that actually takes us forwards. So, Mr. quote unquote, not Devin, let's see here. In the history of blockchain, because there was no stake to do mining, people actually ran their own node locally, in their house or whatever. And because they ran their own node, they kept their private keys in it. So what's funny is today, where someone says, load your keys into MetaMask, and then MetaMask builds a transaction for you, that didn't exist. What existed was people would send transactions raw, like plain text, right to their own node. Their node would take the keys and build that transaction, and then deliver it to the pool for mining and consensus. So what we want to do kind of takes a page from AWS, what are they called? Nitro Enclaves, and I apologize, this is some really technical stuff, but we want to build this super secure node in a container, which makes it portable, and then only through some secondary action can you unlock the container, right? So instead of MetaMask just saying, I have your keys, I'll build this transaction right away. No, we're going to take that data, send it to something that you control, but that can be hosted and farmed out, again, improving decentralization. And then that thing reaches back to you and says, is this the transaction you intended to send, right? So it takes the best of FoolProof, takes the best of decentralization, takes the best of allowing you to focus on truth instead of trust, right? So that you have basically your own node/wallet.
I like that. I mean, we shouldn't be putting our keys have been in the wrong place for a little bit. So I agree with all of this concept, like, and you can compartmentalize them differently. So I like the thinking personally. I think that's a cool way to look at it. And RPCs are, as a developer, like the RPCs have been a pain for us. Like the amount of like there's just shenanigans you have to deal with in this space. I mean, like you said, there's so many different calls. Well, guess you'll know this, right? But just to explain, there's if one of those calls fails, I'm going to say it blanketly. So this is entirely true, but there's effectively no handling that's set up for you in what happens if one of those things fails. So like, we for example have a Wallet Connect 2.0 connection that takes place with one of our dApps. We found that you can connect and fail at the same time because one of the calls doesn't go through, but the other ones did. So then you're connected, but now you're crippled and you have no message or information that has that. So then we as the app developer actually have to build that handling. Whereas in Web 2 world, that would have been built into the library already.
Precisely. And so to take that one step further, one of the cool things we can do, because we're offering private RPCs, is that we can watch your wallet specifically, and we can say, oh, look, you submitted this transaction, but that did not come through us. Something could be wrong. So we can turn that into an alert, right, that goes to your phone. And then furthermore, if that is an asset above X amount of value or X amount of your portfolio, if with the right configuration, right, we can trigger a pull on your behalf that moves that asset in the very next transaction to your backup wallet.
Real quick, if you're an end user, right, you don't necessarily understand all the technical details. In the final vision, right, the ideal scenario, what does that look like? Is there like a new network that I connect through to MetaMask? Is there a new wallet that's similar to MetaMask, or a completely different experience to connect to a blockchain?
At least two of those first two, right? I think your second one was the best with where we're at is, yeah, we're providing a network that you can add to your MetaMask. And when using that network, we pre-check all of your transactions before they even hit the blockchain, right? It's not a pop-up that says you should look at me. It's a natural, normal part of the transaction process that pauses and then says, are you sure you want to do that? So that's part one. And then part two is, yeah, if we get over to making the new wallet, get a collab going with Not Devin, then what? That whole thing, let's see. If you're a Windows user, the way I envision this is you click the mint button, and within a second, Windows does that blackout thing, and it says, like, escalation requested. I forget what it's called. And because of that, right, you know that you are at this moment unlocking your wallet to perform some transaction. Let's see, for Mac, what? In the corner, they put that little lock thing, right? And so jiggle the window, right, draws your attention over, and you can go and unlock it for that specific transaction or that specific session.
Where are you in the process? I know you're trying to onboard beta testers. So are you going to be in the testing process soon? So where are you in the development of the app?
It's a real mix. Got a ton of progress, let's say late summer. But then I realized I was storing insecure data, right? We did want to give like the best user experience, but then I scaled back and said, wait a minute. If we ever got hacked for any reason, someone could just replay all of this. And so I actually took it back to the nuts and bolts to say, how do I get the information without storing the privileged data? And so we're getting founders, co-founders, and really close friends onto it over the next week, right? We've got a guy working on the user experience, so that's going to take a little while longer. And so we don't have a hard time just yet, right? We want to get it right. But so absolutely by the end of the year, if we can do it in November, we will.
That's awesome. Anything else that you want the community to know about the app? Anything that you might have missed? I'm excited for what you guys are building. I think anything that could help people is in the space, especially security-wise, is always good.
I think, what's really different about us, yes, our focus is absolutely on security. The user experience in Web3 right now is very, very subpar. You go to make a transaction in MetaMask and it's supposed to be easy and you're still fed a bunch of confusing information. It took me like quite a bit of hand holding when I was first starting out to understand, how my wallet was interacting with the website and like when I was supposed to click where, and then you add in like a ledger to that mix and it gets even more confusing. One of our main goals is to really improve the user experience and improve security through that as well. Just make these things very transparent to what you're about to perform. So it's going to be better for a user regardless. It's going to be very clear if you're putting yourself at risk of a scam. And we're going to do everything we can to be like, that is not something that you would like to click. It's obviously still your choice, but we highly recommend probably not clicking that. It could potentially cost you, X amount of money if they choose to use all the functions that they put into the smart contract that you're about to agree to, right? So just make it absolutely abundantly clear.
I think there's an important amount of calibration that still needs to be had, right? This is the very beginning of these technologies, and it's not really just a joke. Just like look at it in the framework of how long does it normally take for innovative tech at infrastructures level to come up to speed and become mainstream. And so we're not very far into this yet. These tools are not even remotely there. For example, again, if my wallet is making 30 API calls and any of those can fail and none of them have any handling, meaning any sort of information about what just happened is being passed back to me as a developer and I have to build that, I have a long way to go to being able to build you a very stable, highly usable product where you as a customer feel like it's seamless. And so like the way to think about MetaMask, for example, is that when you look at it, who the persona is that's using that, it's a Web3 developer. It's built for a Web3 developer because it's built by Web3 developers for them to actually use their shit. So if you want to participate in blockchain space using MetaMask, the expectations is you're going to be pretty technical. And if not, they're highly powered features. So there's lots of mistakes that can be made. Like what Emily and Squeebo are talking about is just bringing another level of one of those important services up to us, the consumer level, where when we use it silently and then handles itself and we don't really notice anything happened, we just take it as, oh, this is how it works and it works well.
But yeah, make sure to check it out. FoolProof app. I put up the page on the top, and we look forward to seeing what you guys build. And if you want to come back and when you have any updates, like, feel free to come.